If you've ever walked through that tunnel and you come out in the bottom, how loud it is down there, it is an intimidating atmosphere with which to hit shots. And either you're embracing that or you're not. But your whole day, 4 days in a row, revolve around that moment. And that thing is ready to go. I mean, it's RTG at 8 in the morning or 8 at night. It does not matter. I mean, it is literally like an airport bar. I mean, there is no clock inside that thing. People are riled up and they're there to just have a really, really good time. And that's, in my mind, that's the number one factor why this is such a predictive place. Yes, some of the other things we talk about, the driver, the approach play, and the bonus putting, but really what I think it comes down to is that certain guys embrace this atmosphere, and that's why the correlation with majors and things like the closest atmosphere to this is like the 17th hole at TPC Sawgrass. And the guys know that shot's coming all day long, and they're worried about that. Well, if you're worried about number 17 at Sawgrass and you're playing the 4th hole, you're going to have issues all day.
At Mayo Experience.
This is the final word on the WM Phoenix Open with Keith Stewart from Read the Line. Keith, not in Phoenix. You're in Charlotte, but you got the inside scoop on the course. Tell me about it.
Well, I tell you what, I'm excited for this week. I happen to think that TPC Scottsdale is one of the better courses on the PGA Tour. Remove the 700,000 people, Pat. Remove, everything else around this thing. No signature status. We don't need it. Just an electrifying golf course. It does it year after year. It's had like 11 playoffs in the last 10 years. I absolutely love it. And the first thing you need to know, and I know we'll get into a lot of this, but I'll give you a quick teaser, right? Back in the fall, rewind the calendar just a little bit. The guys there, tournament officials, when they did the overseed, it was a little spotty, my friend. They had some sketchy weather back then in October, November, when they were putting the seed down and trying to get it to catch in order to have that beautiful overseed that you see on TV this week, right before the Super Bowl. Well, you know what? You're going to have some moments this week where it's going to be rub of the green, roll the dice, take your chances, spin the roulette wheel. We'll see what happens, but you might want to filter that into one of your models.
Well, but explain to me how that can work. Like, what would I actually set the model to with that? And how different would these greens play from a different year?
It's actually not so much of a green problem as it was in sections of the rough and then some of maybe the low-lying areas in and around the greens that the guys are chipping off, very tight lies. That's the place where you're going to see a little bit more rub of the green. Now, what does rub of the green mean? Quick PSA. It's like luck of the draw. It's sometimes, you get a good lie, sometimes you don't. It's really nothing. I was kind of saying that in jest. It's really nothing that we can go in the rabbit hole and filter for. It's just more of, can guys have the patience to deal with the crowd? But now also there may be situations where they run into a little bit of trouble and they're going to have to deal with that mentally too and keep things running along smoothly, which may favor somebody who can hit the ball everywhere that they look and not hit at any of these places like the rough or miss greens and like low swales or anything like that. So if you had a player like that, that might be a guy that you'd lean on.
A guy who just hits the ball in the fairway and hits every green and is like 2-1 to win this tournament?
I mean, if you had a guy like that, that would be someone to pay attention to or maybe eliminate from the field. I don't know. I think we'll probably get into all of this, but this is a good precursor of where this conversation's going today.
On my Tuesday show with Alex Blickel, it was the DraftKings show, but we spent the first 15 minutes or so really analyzing the data between the betting with Scottie and the betting without Scottie market and running simulations of the tournament and what the actual odds should be on that. Do you know what the conclusion was, Keith?
Well, I tell you what, that was some really great content on the with or without Scottie market. I've consumed a ton of that over the last year and a half or so as we've all tried to work this system out. And, everyone has their theories. Everyone has their things that they try. That was some really, really good content. And remind me again what the result of that conversation was.
Well, it depends on the week and what they're actually setting the odds at. But this week, for example, that when Blickel ran the simulations, the big thing that we noticed was when you remove Scottie from the field, it's a pretty even distribution all the way down the line for who wins without Scottie Scheffler. So if Scottie Scheffler ends up being 25% to win a tournament, that is his simulated cost. And then you remove that 25% of win equity from the field and then reinsert it when you take Scottie out of the market. Like Cam Young was second in Blickel's projections at 6.1% to win. He only jumped to 8% afterwards. which I thought was really strange, but it intuitively makes a lot of sense because Scottie's such an overwhelming favorite that if you removed him from the field, it's not like the second place guy gets an automatic bump of 33%. He just doesn't win that often.
I thought it was a really great piece of content because most people just assume that he's going to get like a 10-point jump.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden, he was 8%. Oh, he's going to be 20% now. And that's not the case. It's like rewinding a week and what were all of the breakdowns there without Scottie in the field? He's such a lean. It's like Tiger back in the day. The system favors him so much and his odds are so short. Everyone just assumes they would that their guy or their guys that they pick would have such a better chance to win should he be gone. And it's really not the case.
And the biggest part that he found was top 5 percentage basically remains unchanged, whether you have Scottie in or out, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah. Again, each ways to people have that, ability available to them was also another marketplace where, maybe you want to balance out whether or not the each way value is good versus the without Scottie versus the with Scottie market and all the above. I just thought it was a really thoughtful conversation that had some nice data to support the argument going both ways. Again, it's a situation by not to not give a true answer, but it's a situation by situation, case by case analysis. But overall, I think it's a really interesting part to all of what's going on with Scottie in the marketplace. I go back to the days of betting Tiger, and those, if you can believe it or not, were not legal days. And Tiger would come into Bay Hill and he was like plus 100 to win, or he was coming into to Augusta and he was plus 2 to 1. Now to actually have him in the marketplace and have all of the numbers adjusting in front of us and not just dealing with a phone call and just listening to what the numbers are and really having the ability to break all this down. It's just fascinating what it's done to the marketplace.
It is. And the each way actually turned out to be but the problem is that not everyone has access to each way bets, depending on what site that they end up using. But the non-Scottie each way market is the preferable market to bet in if you do take those each ways. If not, listen, you're going to get value on some guys in one spot. It depends on, honestly, what book you're playing at and if the book is, I don't want to say being crooked, but really punishing you for betting in the non-Scottie market. But as Feinberg and I have always found out that especially when you get the first wave of odds that drop on a Monday and then people start, like this week, I bet Seb Straka at 80 to 1. And then all of a sudden he was 45 to 1 overnight. Now I think he's dropped back down to 55, whatever he might be. That initial surge gets updated on the main page board a lot quicker than it does in the without Scottie market. So you can catch them sleeping sometimes in that non-Scottie market and maybe find the best of both worlds, get basically the same number in both spots.
I agree with that. I know you guys have brought that up a number of times. I also like when people get creative and they look for different ways to try to get some sort of value out of a Scottie bet this week. And I know other guys in the network, I know Kenny and Byron were talking about this the other night, and Byron presented a case for betting him as first round leader or first round top 5. I mean, you could get almost 3 to 1 on Scottie to be a top 5 in the first round. Well, if he's plus 200 to win the tournament, and I just have to get him in the top 5 on Thursday, of which the first round of the year that he did at the Amex, he shot 63. So, and last year he led the PGA Tour in round 1 scoring by almost a half a shot. Those are some pretty savvy ways to make some dough on Scottie or maybe compound your interest.
You could try that, or you could just take the easy way out if you want to win some money. If you subscribe to Mayo Media Network right now, boom, you are in a draw for $250. That winner's being given away on Friday. So you want to throw it on a mid-range bet halfway through Friday, go for it. Super Bowl, keep the money. Go eat something, whatever you want to do with it. That's one way to get a ballot. The other way is subscribe, rate, and review 5 stars to the Pat Mayo Experience on Apple Podcast. That's a ballot. Do the same on Spotify Podcast. That's another ballot. And if you want to see all of my bets, the final write-up, the weather, the DraftKings ownership, I send that out to everyone in the free Mayo Media newsletter that is free to join down in the description. You go do that right now. That is another ballot in the draw, Keith. I'm just trying to give people money for 30 seconds of work.
I tell you what, the next time we do this, anyone that goes and subscribes to Read the Line, even for free, you should give them a ballot.
You know what? I will do that right now. You tell me the people that have signed up over the next 4 days. If you go to readtheline.com, sign up for the free newsletter over there, then boom, you're in the draw too. How about that?
Hey, What a country. What a countries. The two of them, Canada and the U.S. working together. What a beautiful thing, Pat.
So besides the patchy rough, what else are you hearing about the course right now?
Firm and fast, like a tarmac, ready to roll. Weather looks perfect. Everybody always complains about playing in the dome when it's desert golf. Well, the dome is up this week, Pat. Very little breeze. Golf course is just it's like a brick out there. The guys are really excited. They've tried to grow the rough up a little bit to make it a little bit more penal. That may cause a couple flyers here and there, but overall, if you know what you're doing, and you know what. Sometimes people forget to bring this up, but TPC Scottsdale is a very predictive golf course. It's perennially in the top 5 on the PGA Tour, up there with Augusta, up there with YLA, up there with Harbor Town. And you'd say to yourself, well, geez, like TPC Scottsdale is a TPC course. It's got to be pretty generic across the board. What makes it so predictive? And I think one of those factors definitely has to do with it's at elevation. And when you start to talk about hitting those approach numbers, the guys that are the most comfortable playing there and who have contended before and who have done well there before, they know what the difference of 1,250 feet of elevation means in the Scottsdale town and when they're hitting shots into these greens. I think that plays a big role in all of this. Certainly the predictive nature of your ability to deal with the crowd and all the distractions that are going on. I think that's a feature of it as well. But I also think it's like when you go to pull the trigger and you're playing these really tough par 3s or you're hitting an approach shot where you just can't miss left or right because there's a penalty area. I think it really because I know it doesn't sound much, but 2, maybe 3% difference due to the elevation and the wind and the temperature. Now, all of a sudden, if you're between two clubs, you have to make a decision. You have to be able to run with that. And then, you're trying to shoot 20 under par. So there's not a large margin for error, Pat.
There isn't. But if your game is rolling at Scottsdale, you can make birdies in a hurry here.
Oh, absolutely. Vegas set the number this week at 20.5. So what's that? 263.5. I definitely think with the weather and the conditions and the lack thereof rough that they tried to grow, I'm going to go with the under on that. So I think that it's going to be higher than 20.5, the final score. A larger number, however you want to word that. I know it's worded all different ways, but
I believe that's under. We call that under.
It's under the 263.5, but it's going to be more than 20 under.
Yeah, but if it was more than 20, if it was more than minus 20, that means it would be minus 19 because that number is bigger than minus 20, right?
You know what? I tell you what. I got a head cold. The semantics. All right, give me a break. All right,
well, those are very important semantics.
Fair enough. I think the winning score is going to be 22, 23 under, and I think that is under 263.5.
So the past 2 years, we've seen it minus 21 with Nick Taylor and then minus 24 in that runaway with Dietrich. So it does seem like one guy is always able to separate. It was below that number for 3 consecutive years when it was Scottie Brooks as the champions at TPC Scottsdale. One of the big correlations that I've noticed, and I'm not sure why, Blickle and I talked about this as well, and we didn't really quite get it, that strong, consistent U.S. Open performers play really well at this course. And I don't know if, obviously, the difficulty factor isn't the same whatsoever, but it seems to test driving, irons, and around the green in a similar way that the U.S. Open does, with an emphasis on being able to hit driver versus almost any other course that you see on tour.
I mean, there's 3 things that you touch upon real quick. Number one, the driver. The U.S. Open is the ultimate driving test. It tends to be year after year. Forget the Erin Hills and the Chambers Bay and those places, but the Oakmonts and all of those golf courses that they've rolled out year after year, Pinehurst, right? It's a driving contest. Number 2, it's that 175 to 200 yard iron range that the guys have to be really, really sharp with. And then it's a patience test. You could say for certain courses, it's the putting or it's the chipping or it's the combination of both, but you have to be very patient at TPC Scottsdale. You have to be aggressive to score, but you have to be patient with the crowd. You have to be patient with the pace of play. You have to be patient with all the distractions. And I think that the U.S. Open is a really, really strong mental exam, much like, a lot of people draw a correlation between here and TPC Sawgrass. And there's 11 winners of both over the years. So again, there is a direct correlation there. Is it the Poa Trivialis on the greens? Well, that could be part of it. Guys could get comfortable putting on these greens. I mean, they're near perfect, but really what it comes down to is that if you miss a drive by a large margin in U.S. Open or at TPC Sawgrass, you risk double bogey. And a lot of golf courses, it's usually you're just going to make bogey or you make, par and a half. It's not that much of a penalty. Well, here, if you start to really get offline when you're using the driver and you can't kind of shape it left to right and just put it in play time and time again, like you cannot miss left at TPC Scottsdale over and over. Like we've talked about other golf courses where you can't do that. You cannot do it here. We want players again with a high apex. So, really good drivers tend to launch the ball very high. They tend to launch the ball higher with their irons, and you want to be able to move the ball left to right. There's a distinct advantage for players that move the ball left to right, especially coming down the stretch where 4 of your last 6 drives, you face a penalty area to your left.
Right tendency numbers. Michael Brennan, Scottie Scheffler, Johnny Kiefer, Chad Ramey, and Kim are your top 5 and your right tendency players.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Brennan on this driving golf course, we would have loved to have seen him finish his Farmers, but, he might have a little red ass in him to get out there and to do some scoring and to dominate some people with his driver. Tom Weiskopf here, Tom Weiskopf at Black Desert.
And Tom Weiskopf at CJ Cup, right?
Yes, correct.
So KH Lee has done well at both those courses over the years. I actually had the TPC Craig Ranch numbers in the free newsletter from Monday if people want to go check that. Actually, it came out on Sunday evening this week. That if you want to go check that out, it's also as a part of the research show. If you're looking for some of those mid-tier guys that could be able to pop here, that course, however, is much easier. There's no making double bogeys out of nowhere there. It's just kind of like, if you're not making birdie, that's basically a bogey.
And that's why there's less of a correlation between the players. But I get the U.S. Open thing. You have got to be an elite driver to win a U.S. Open. And if you're an elite driver here, it's a separation skill. We went back and forth last week a lot about the Farmers, whether you could be short and accurate or long and bomber and then play from the rough. And as it turned out, the lean at the end of the week was short and accurate, seemed to work out better, although there were a couple bombers up there, but not enough to say that short and accurate wasn't the way to go. This week, for sure, year after year, the longest driving average distance on tour, it's 15 yards longer than the weekly average. Guys that bomb it here, you look at Scottie, Hideki, and Brooks have won here 6 times in the last, 11 years. I mean, those are pretty good players in majors. Hideki maybe not so much recently, but in his prime, great driver of the golf ball. And those guys do all those other things pretty darn well.
Yeah, well, Hideki just doesn't hit it very far or accurately anymore off the tee. So that's a bit of a detriment to him, even to look back at Dietrich. What's the one thing that Dietrich does well? He drives the ball really well. Gary Woodland drives the ball well and won a U.S. Open, and he's also won at this course. J.B. Holmes won here twice. Phil, now, when you think of Phil in your mind, you're like, all right, how good is he off the tee? But Phil, in his day, was awesome off the tee.
Yeah, and he didn't win a U.S. Open, but he finished runner-up like 42 times. So... he was good there. Well, I mean, Webb Simpson's won here recently, and he won a U.S. Open.
It's true. A completely different type of player when he won this event versus when he won the U.S. Open, though.
Everybody loves their trends, Pat. I'm just trying.
He also won a Players Championship too.
He did. I mean, the correlation across the board, and I think one of the things. Like when we do get to the greens and we start to talk about, where you should lean there, you talk about I think it's the 6th largest greens on tour, 7,100 square feet on average. Beautiful, beautiful landscapes of Poa Trivialis, but not the most challenging greens in the world. So even if your proximity's off, we don't tend to filter much for 3-putt avoidance here. We actually kind of want to find the guys who can gain a lot with their putter. And in order to do that, you have to make a couple 20 plus footers per round. That's how you really gain with the putter. So I need a guy that's solid from 5 feet and in, and a guy that tends to make longer putts. Maybe that's why Jordan Spieth has been good here so many times before, because that was always kind of Jordan's, modus operandi, was that he'd make his short ones that count. And then all of a sudden in a round, he would make 3 30-footers, and you're like, oh, here we go. The guy just, he made 125 feet of putts today. I mean, those are the types of guys where you get that kind of bonus putting stat. That type of guy, a good classic example of that is, guy can't hit an iron to save his life, but he bombs the driver left to right, and he's a good bonus putter, and that's Wyndham Clark.
Wyndham Clark was the first round leader here last year, but I do think you need to be good enough with the irons, and that's something that we just haven't seen. From Wyndham Clark as of late, that he can have these spike rounds. That's great. Maybe a first round leader look is great for Wyndham Clark. But then you have to play the rest of the 3 rounds and stuff deteriorates a little bit and you hit a bad drive here or there. And then it becomes a problem. It was always the problem with Wyndham Clark outside of his amazing 13-month run.
Yeah, exactly the point. For my bonus putting stat, Wyndham, great example. For approach play this week, which is a big part of the equation, not a good example, which is why first round leader, great. Maybe this year he shoots 1 round in the low 60s, but then the rest of them are probably going to be right around par, and he's not going to win. It's interesting here because you love the volatility of this place. Anywhere where over the last decade, the average cut line is like just under par. It's like 0.4 of a stroke under par, but the winner is like 20 plus under. It goes back to my opening statement, which is I just love watching this place. Whether there's a million people around it, whether it's Super Bowl Sunday or not, I love watching this golf course because it rewards aggressive play. Guys that want to go after the golf course and play aggressively, a la like a Scottie Scheffler, like a Victor Hovland, those types of guys, Hideki in his prime. Those guys were really, very aggressive players. John Rahm, guys fire at every single pin. Victor Hovland, those types of players. I love watching them go after this place, and then have the crowd react makes it all the more fun.
So as you were talking, I ended up just putting together let's go 3 to 5 feet. We'll throw that one in too. So we'll go 3 to 5. So I did these putting ranges. So it's like 3 to 5 feet, 15 to 20 feet, 20 to 25 feet, just to see if we see anyone crop itself up. BetsRitzGolf.com. You can use the rabbit hole, go subscribe, make any model that you want. We'll weight the other ones pretty highly. Like people are pretty good from 3 to 5 feet. So we're not going to give that one a ton of weight on this front. So we go 45, 45, weight those ones easy. The 15 to 20, 25 or 20 to 25, and then 3 to 5 feet. And we'll call it putting. And I spelled putting wrong, but that's okay because no one else is going to be able to see this. Your best players, Danny Walker, S.H. Kim, Max Grazerman, Nico, Ramey, Knapp, Bridgman, Homa, Bezadenhout, Hideki, Harry Hall, Matt McCarty.
I mean, there's Matt McCarty again.
I bet him again this week.
Yeah. Nico's dead to me this year now. There's a couple names there. Knapp, for sure. Knapp can drive it well enough there, and he putts it very well. He might fall, though, in that, like, you get him for, 36 holes. I worry about him like you worry about Wyndham. It's the same thing, the approach play. I mean, Knapp was what? Right there in the top 15 last week, and the approach play was like, but the driver and the putter are really, really good. A lot of that makes sense. Grazerman, great putter. Doesn't surprise me at all that he tends to make his fair share of longer ones. Had we seen a little bit more out of Max Grazerman in the last few weeks, there's a chance. I wonder, okay, so let's do that, but why don't we throw TPC Scottsdale and TPC Sawgrass in there and then see who really putts, because we want them to be able to be good at both places.
We do, but I feel like now we're shrinking the sample size down so much that it's going to give us, if someone had one really good round at a course, then they're going to pop to the very top of the list. What if we just put in Poet Travalis over the past 2 years?
All right, you can do that. I mean, that's probably why we're getting Danny Walker.
I'm guessing that's probably exactly why it is. And Alex Smalley was actually up near the top, although he played pretty well both at Phoenix and the Players' Championship last year. He's when we get to it, he's on my first round leader card. I like Alex Smalley a little bit this week. Not enough to bet outright, but first round leader, maybe in a favorable head-to-head top 30 type bet, I think is probably the spot where you want to go look at him. So I will go by green surface, Poet Travalis, apply it, and take a look. So here are the just random guys. I have a minimum of 20 rounds over the past 2 years as well. So it will filter out, like Rasmus Niergaard Peterson was number 1. He had 2 rounds. So probably not going to do that. And
get him out of here.
Someone would tell you that 25 rounds probably isn't a great look either. But if we do 15 to 20 feet, Pavon, Highsmith, Bridgman, Nico, your boy, Straka, Wyndham Clark, Sam Burns, Eckroat, Charlie Hoffman is that list from 15 to 20. From 25 to 50, Pavon is up there again. So is Nico, Harris English, Siwoo, Fitzpatrick, JT Poston, and Brian Harmon, Tom Hoagie, and Alejandro Tosti. And then we got 3 to 5, Bezadenhout, English, Stevens, Grazerman, Sahith, Scottie, Fowler, Michael Kim, Nikolai Højgaard. Højgaard pops up on a lot of these. Nikolai does, not Rasmus.
Yes. Yeah. Great driver. Pretty good with the putter. 2 quick questions for you. Number 1, is Michael Kim healthy?
He told me he was.
Okay.
I asked him, I was like, how's your back? He said, it's good. I was like, all right.
I mean, he's a guy that really embraces this place.
That's a part of it, right? Like you've been on the grounds. I was there for my bachelor party, but you're there all the time. That it's one of my ideas of I we'll get to it. I bet on Brooks this week. I think that Brooks thrives at majors because there's a lot of people around and it ramps up the pressure, even when the pressure and the stakes aren't quite as high, but it simulates that here. And he thrives under that where other guys wilt.
Absolutely. It goes back to his famous quote. I love going to majors because a third of the field doesn't matter. They've already eliminated themselves. And it's true here too. I've been there the last 3 years in a row. I got a little sidetracked this year when I was on my way there, but it's a difficult place if you're just covering the event, just to get around. And the Thunderbirds, they thrive off of that atmosphere, right? They have it like percolating. Like a couple of years ago, it got a little out of control on Saturday, but for the most part, they had it reined in perfect last year. I mean, the crowd and the roars and the way the golf course is set up, and it's like stadium variety. And I tell you what, I mean, like the whole time you're playing, especially if you start on the first tee, you can obviously see the arena on 16, but you could hear it your whole round. And at moments, like the 6th tee or the 7th tee, you kind of like on the front nine, you kind of work your way to that side and you can kind of hear it. It gets louder and then you go away from it again. And then on the back nine, you go away with 13 green and then you start working your way back towards it on 14 and then the par 5 15th. And then if you've ever walked through that tunnel and you come out in the bottom, how loud it is down there, it is an intimidating atmosphere with which to hit shots. And either you're embracing that or you're not, but your whole day, 4 days in a row, revolve around that moment. And that thing is ready to go. I mean, it's RTG at 8 in the morning or 8 at night. It does not matter. I mean, it is literally like an airport bar. I mean, there is no clock inside that thing. People are riled up and they're there to just have a really, really good time. And that's, in my mind, that's the number one factor why this is such a predictive place. Yes, some of the other things we talk about, the driver, the approach play, and the bonus putting. But really what I think it comes down to is that certain guys embrace this atmosphere. And that's why the correlation with majors and things like the closest atmosphere to this is like the 17th hole at TPC Sawgrass. And the guys know that shot's coming all day long. And, they're worried about that. Well, if you're worried about number 17 at Sawgrass and you're playing the 4th hole, you're going to have issues all day. If you're looking forward to that shot on 17 and you want to show off in like a Phil way or a Brooks way, then guess what? You're going to play well the rest of the day. And some guys thrive off of it. And it's a proven fact that like that leads to it, their success.
You mentioned the weather a little bit earlier. Depending on what weather model you're looking at, Thursday could be really fine or Thursday could be kind of dicey with the way that it's looking. The rest of the week looks like there's absolutely no wind. And at first glance, I thought the same thing for Thursday as well. But early in the morning, seeing 9 a.m. gusts up to 41 miles per hour. Like that's wild. Like it could be very windy for the AM wave.
That's interesting because the last time I looked at it, I didn't see that. And as a result, in 2026, I added a real-time wind link into the Read the Line newsletter just for this reason. So we've always had a weather one. We use Weather Underground. We've always had the GCSA report, the superintendent's report. That link is always there. But I added a third link this year, real-time wind. And we use this website, windy.com. And it's really, really good. I'm sure you probably use the same one. I'm not reinventing wind science, but
I generally use Windfinder, but windy.com draws from 5 separate models. But looking at them right now, they're telling like 5 different things, which is really bizarre.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of cloud cover that day, so there must be some sort of front coming through. I saw that on Weather Underground, that the cloud cover is going to be significant on Thursday, but there's not going to be any precipitation. So there's some kind of vortex or something going on in the airflow that's causing somewhat of a disturbance. So Thursday could get a little bit wild. You might want to lean on somebody who knows where the golf ball is going.
Yeah, that's probably pretty helpful. How far off the beaten path can you go here? Because one thing I really did notice when I was there that it's not that the fairways are wide. You can admit the rough, you said they're growing it out. It's never really that penal though. It's when you start hitting it into a cactus that you got real problems.
Absolutely. I would almost say that Black Desert had less room off the tee than TPC Scottsdale. You really just got to stay out of the water. There's not that many cactuses. I mean, we see them all on TV because that's what TV's looking for in their coverage, but there's not that many cactuses. And these guys can hit off a cart path. They can hit off the sand because it's basically hard sand. It's not like going to the beach. Like you're not sinking in it like it's a bunker. It's, I mean, how many guys ended behind a boulder? One. It just happened to be Tiger, so everyone thinks about it. But overall, when you hit it off the planet at Black Desert and you were in the lava, you were screwed. At this place, I would say you have more than a 2/3 to 1/3 chance that everything's going to be fine, and then you could hit some sort of shot towards the green. I think there's much more room for error, and then from there, this golf course wants you risk reward, wants you to make a decision, and it wants you to put the pedal to the metal as much as you can. It wants you to play aggressively and score. It wants you to make eagles. I think there were 56 eagles last year. There were 2 hole outs. There was a hole in one. 2 hole outs from the fairway. It was a hole in one. And, so what's that leave? 53 more eagles on the par 5s. I mean, it wants you to go.
3.5 eagle percent on hole number 3, 3.6% on 13, 2.1% on number 15, only 1.1 on number 17. I used to think that number 17 was a big swing hole, and it really only happened that year that Ricky kept putting it into the water, I believe, on 17. And he ended up beating Brendan Grace anyway in that really misty year that he ended up winning. But number 17 might be one of the worst holes on the PGA Tour. I hate it. It sucks. There is no risk reward. It's just reward. Go for it. At worst, you'll make bogey.
I mean, there's really only 1 or 2 pin positions that allow for an eagle. I mean, when they use that back left pin position, you have to make like a 50-footer or chip it across a swale. The front left position, no one's going to go near because it's not worth it because the ball kind of funnels into the water. So overall, what started out as like a strategy thing because guys actually used to choose to lay back and not hit it all the way down there. Now everyone just hits it all the way down into that right gully, and then they just pitch to whatever the pin position is. And then, the stroke average keeps getting closer and closer to 4, and it's not really become like the 16 almost has more drama on Sunday than 17 and 18 put together.
Well, 18 in theory should be difficult, but when people need a birdie at 18, they get it. They put it to a foot and tap it in. Just miss the pews and you're good.
Well, it used to be a long hole, and it's just not anymore. I mean, there's certain guys in the field, they just carry the water down the left. And then they put those bunkers in there, and then the guys start guys like Brennan come along, and they start carrying that as well. And then all of a sudden now they're hitting a wedge in. You can put the pin wherever you want, even on that little fall off on the left where Scottie made the putt in 2022 against Cantley. And even there, I mean, the guy's hitting a gap wedge or a sand wedge, and it's not that hard for them.
I want to talk one and done for a second. I ended up going with Mav McNeely last week, which was working out great until it didn't work out at all. When he was in second place, I was looking pretty good in the one and done. When he comes in 10th, it's like $220K. It's better than a miscut, but it's not really doing anything for you. When you assess the field here, because I do like to target a top-end player that no one else is really thinking of. Now, part of the problem is for me doing this, when I'm speaking about the strategy on the show, people just end up taking the guy that I take, and they lose along with me. But the ownership percentage gets jacked up because of this. So the immediate candidates that came to my mind for this week would be like Sam Burns, Harris English, Jake Knapp, Victor Hovland, that type of JJ Spawn would be another one. No one is going to take these guys in Phoenix this week. Now, I don't know if I want to take them either, but do you have a preference of those guys or maybe one of the other overlooked guys? Because I'm not using Scottie at an event where the top prize isn't $5 million. That's crazy.
Yeah, of that list you just mentioned, I would go after the type of player that's like a Sam Burns or a Jake Knapp. Somebody that's a good fit for the golf course, is going to play very well, and then their spike potential is super, super high should they go nuclear. I wouldn't want to use anybody that I thought that could contend in a major or a signature event. And that to me is like Hovland and Harris kind of scream that type of player, where even if like Harris comes in second again in a major or in a signature event that kind of fits him, like the Travelers or something like that, the guy's going to make like $2 million. And that's more than he would make here if he won. So it's definitely like I used Ryan Gerard last week, and I think he came in 11th. So, like that's the type of guy I'm going for. I'm going for somebody who's like really, really hot. Siwoo, not a bad example this week.
See, I agree with you. And I need to be talked into one more bet, I think. So we'll get to your bets here in a second. But Siwoo's been that fringe guy for me all week. I then revert back to, I feel like there's just way better places to use Siwoo. Wyndham, Colonial, Heritage, the Players. Like these are all better Siwoo courses than this in my mind, but he might never be playing this well again consistently.
I mean, my pushback is going to be, I mean, when's the next time he's going to go 3 events in a row gaining like 8+ strokes tee to green? And all you're worried about is the putter. And it seems to be something that, like, he putts good on Poa Trivialis. So it's like, okay, the coordination of this should work in our favor. Whereas I wait till Colonial and he hasn't finished inside the top 30 in a month. I'm like, man, I should have used Siwoo.
That's a good idea. I would throw out that the year that he won the Players, he lost strokes putting.
I mean, only Siwoo. Only Siwoo. I mean, this seems like the type of place that Siwoo would have on his resume, just because of how nuts of a place it is. Like I didn't go after him last week at Torrey just because I felt like it's just too like normal of a golf course in a situation for Siwoo to like be the guy to win there. Justin Rose and the flowing robes and the Ryder Cup and the Hall of Fame conversation and his age and all of this stuff at a U.S. Open venue, all that's, like I could write that story, whatever. That just doesn't seem like a Siwoo place. Siwoo needs madness. Sawgrass, a spot like this, opening the year at Sony and winning, that's a Siwoo thing to me. So, plus he's good at the Dye Stadium course. Like that's another good comp course there. We haven't talked enough about, I think Muirfield Village is a great comp course for TPC Scottsdale. If you look at the leaderboards at both places, and you'd say to yourself, geez, those 2 places, Keith, that's pretty random for comps. But like, go look at the leaderboards. It's the same skill set that you want to do. You can separate yourself at Muirfield Village at Jack's house with the driver, with your mid-iron play, and of course with some bonus putting.
Nick Taylor even finished, I believe, inside the top 8 there last year.
He did. And of course, he's obviously won there. Guys like Cantley have played well at both. Justin Thomas has played well at both. Obviously, Scottie's played well at both. Hideki. There's countless number of guys that have been good at both. Hovland played good at both. So there you go.
You think Chris Gotterup can hit his irons this week? Because he rates out really well for me. I just need him to be able to make a few putts.
I think the putting is better than the iron play, really.
It's give or take, though. Like, he was very good with his irons last week at the South Course. I think he gained like 4.5 strokes on approach. Like, he was very good. You know that he's going to give him with the driver. So if he can have a reasonable irons week, a reasonable putting week, all of a sudden we're in business.
He might be, in that case, then, he might be a good one-and-done pick, but a pick to win, I'm starting to get concerned. He was awful last night in the Dome, in the SoFi Center.
You got to stop watching TGL, man.
Pat, the point is this guy keeps going across the country just for this stupid simulator golf. Right? At some point, that's got to add up.
He's fine. He's 25. He can do it. Well, listen, does that mean we should bet Akshay to win it 200-1 because he was great on TGL?
No, because he hasn't been good on the golf course. But the point is that these guys keep going back and forth and back and forth. At some point, that becomes a distraction. And you're trying to take down the number 1 player in the world who doesn't make any mistakes. So we're trying to pick winners here. The driver's great, but there's a lot of ifs and buts there when it comes to Gotterup, and then the guy's got to be fatigued. He seems like he'd be a perfect fit, like a Baby Brooks, to go through that place and like really embrace the bro culture that's going on and all the bachelor parties and everything else, the bucket list, trips that everyone's going on at that place, and the snake cups and everything in the stands and all of that. But like, I don't know. At some point, I'm just starting to see these guys get fatigued, and we're not even halfway through Q1. We haven't even gotten to a big event yet. Let's be honest. We just kicked off the season last week. You and I said that, right? Now we're at this huge distraction week. We haven't done a signature event yet. We've got 3 of those to go to lead up to the Players. And, these guys have made like 6 cross-continental trips. You're not buying it.
I'm talking one and done, so he's on my radar here. I didn't get to him on my betting card because I took similar types of players, but further down the list. Like, I can just take Cootie for more value, and I trust his putting a little bit more. I do not trust Cootie's irons whatsoever, almost the same way, but that's kind of baked into the price at that point, that, hey, if he does have a good irons week, hey, maybe he can go spike and get a win here. He would be another one of the types of guys that would have a breakthrough win at this course. I'm toying around Nikolai Højgaard, but for one and done in particular, I like Siwoo or Burns. I think that's where I'm going to end up. I might wait until Burns is in better form to do something. You might be right about Siwoo. Now might just be the time to do it.
Again, if he wins or he does really well this week or wins this week, it's the same amount as the other place you're going to play in, which is Colonial. And at least he's hitting it good right now.
Here's the thing. Endurance athletes never talk about this, but heavy lifting and training can quietly wreck sexual performance. Long cardio, high cholesterol, bad sleep, under recovery, it all hits the same systems that control blood flow and hormones. And when circulation drops, performance drops everywhere. Most guys reach for stimulants or prescriptions, but that's a blunt fix way downstream. Nitric oxide is the master switch for blood flow, endurance, and longevity. Once you understand that, Joy Mode makes total sense. If you want to support sexual performance the same way you should support training and recovery naturally and intelligently, Joy Mode has got a deal for my listeners. Go to tryjoymode.com/Mayo or enter Mayo at checkout for 20% off. Joy Mode, the electrolyte packet for your dick. Underdog's expanding the game. You already know their player picks. Pick higher or lower on player stats. Today, Underdog prediction markets are live in 25 states. Back your squad with spreads, handicap for closer game, or totals, higher or lower combined score, combined with player picks for bigger payouts. New customers play $5 on fantasy, get $75 in fantasy bonus entries. Code Mayo. Team picks, player picks, all on Underdog. Cash App just released a new status program for the way that people actually spend Cash App Green. It unlocks new ways for you to pay, get rewarded, and easily grow or manage your money on your terms. Now, when you spend at least $500 a month with the Cash App or Cash App Pay, you earn green status, which unlocks benefits like up to $200 of free overdraft coverage, higher borrow limits, and custom personalized cashback offers every Friday at places you love to shop. Turn everyday spending into status with Cash App Green. Download Cash App today or visit cash.app/new to learn more about this and other great features launching now. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code CASHAPP10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank. Member FDIC. Cash App Green overdraft coverage, borrow, cashback offers, and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Bets. Who are you betting this week?
Oh boy, I tell you. I have a lot of interest in one Mr. Maverick McNeely.
Really? Okay. This is a 3-week 180 from you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've been impressed with what's been going on lately. And then a couple years ago, when he added length when he came back from the injury, and he added some length. I followed his group. He was playing with Ryan Fox, and I think it might have been playing with like Jordan or something. It was in a weird round. It was the year with all the bad weather, and they were jammed up on the rounds. And I went out and watched these guys, and I was like, man, Mav McNeely, this is kind of interesting. He's kind of evolving his game. And then, you won and done him last week, and I was kind of like, I wasn't really feeling that. But then I'm looking at and knowing what you need to do around this place in order to play well, and the spike putting and the driver and the way he can attack with driver and how well he played last week. Yeah, I know he faded a little bit on Sunday, but I don't know. I mean, he's doing a lot of things that really catch my attention, and the recent history there is building towards something. So he very much has my attention at the top of the board. I have an issue. I know everybody loves Cam Young this week. Siwoo makes a ton of sense. I think Siwoo makes more sense than Cam Young. But Cam Young, he's putted well here before when he was never a good putter and hasn't done very, very well here. And I wonder about his approach game coming in. Bet him last week, was kind of like, man, that tournament was kind of there for the taking. At least second place after the first 2 rounds. It's amazing how much the guys that start on the North Course gain confidence, and then they just kind of steamroll the field. Don't you think that's interesting? Like looking ahead for notes for next year.
No, see, I somewhat disagree with that because they put all of the best players at the North Course on the first day. So it makes a lot of logical sense to me in a way that would work. And maybe it didn't work out that way, but generally speaking, I do find that they stack some of the bigger name players will get south early so they can get that early TV coverage. But I find that the overall field on the North tends to be a little bit better. That's my take on it, though. But you might be 100% correct on that.
100%'s a lot of percent, but even if it's 75% correct, I mean, it's worth a point. I don't know. I mean, at the top, I'm leaning more Siwoo than Young, but Matt McNeely in that number. I mean, everyone's going to throw their models out there, and Victor Hovland is going to spike, and you're going to say, like, this is his perfect kind of golf course. The driver, the mid-iron play, the aggressive putting, but like,
can't chip. If you can't chip, you can't win here.
Well, again, so it's been proven that he just doesn't contend here. So here's another guy you could like cross off the list. And in that range, if you're not feeling that Hideki can get the driver in a place where he can win there, then Matt McNeely makes a lot of sense to me in that range, in that like right around 30 number, and 40. Then whatever it gets cut to, if you want to bet him, without Scottie, like right around there seems like a guy that could actually win this thing.
So 40-1 on Matt McNeely right now is the best in market I'm seeing. My betting card goes like this. I bet on Cam Young at 28-1, and then my good friends at CoolBet were like, Pat, we can boost that up for you. So if you do want to bet Cam Young at 30-1 this week, you can do that at coolbet.com. Hit the description, get yourself a bonus. If you're in Canada, outside of Ontario, you will have access to that number for Cam Young at 30-1. I still have it at 28 for the cheat sheet because that's the number that's widely available, or was widely available. The best I'm seeing right now is 27, but I'm sure if you look around hard enough, you can find yourself at 28. So I have him at 28. I got Fitzpatrick at 45, and I got Brooks at 50. And then I played Cootie, my guy, 66 with 5 places, Straka at 80 with 5 places, and Matt McCarty at 80-1 with 5 places as well. Those numbers, I sent that out immediately when I saw it on Monday morning. That if you follow me at the PME, you saw it as well. That, look, I don't know if I have the most faith in both those guys to win, but the numbers were moving so hard the other way. I think Straka's now back down to, what the hell is Straka at? Straka is 55-1 now, but he dropped to 40-1 almost instantly. Like, that number didn't make any sense. And I tried to use the same logic that I didn't use for Rose last week, that this guy's a top 10 player ranked in the world, and he's 21st on the betting board. Why wouldn't I try the same method here with Seb Straka, who's even farther down the betting board this week?
I mean, we definitely. I missed on Rose. I just thought he missed on it. Brooks, huh? You're going to do Brooks?
I don't see why not. What did you not see from Brooks last week to be like, man, that gives me a lot of pause? He missed a bunch of putts, whatever.
Most people wouldn't pick up on this, but Liv doesn't play any like coastal POA courses like you'll see out there in California. That very specific style of grass, like you just couldn't putt. He was 11th tee to green. Now he's coming to a place that like he not only plays well at, but he embraces. I mean, by all means, the books are set up to either get killed or kill when it comes to Brooks this week. I mean, they can't set the number. There's no way they could set the number right at this point. And everybody wants it to be higher, but
that's not what I'm seeing. Like, it opened at 35. It's now at 50. I don't think they're taking much money on Brooks at all. I could be wrong, but outside of, like 50 is a generous number.
50 is generous after what we saw last week, for sure. At a place where he has great history. Boy, his number really gets cut in the without Scottie market. It's interesting when you start to talk about win equity.
But would that concern you? If and I think this is the easier way to play it, that there's only so many guys in this field that, let's say Scheffler has his B+ game this week. That means instead of winning 25% of the time, he wins 15% of the time. Is Brooks one of those guys that if he shows up with his A game, that he can beat Scottie? I say yes.
Yeah, we used that rationale at Amex.
Yeah, listen, Scottie's gonna win tournaments. Like, you have to accept that fact that you're not going to win every single week, and Scottie's going to win. Like, he won 37% of the time last year. Well, what happened in the other 65%? He didn't win.
All right, so along that line of thinking, name me another bet you're going to get at the Super Bowl without some cockamamie parlay that's going to give you 30-1 on Brooks finishing second to Scottie, and Scottie wins by 6. What's wrong with 30-1? I know you want 50. Everybody wants 50.
It's not that
50,
it's not
right?
that I want 50. Is that when I went through the numbers for it, is that it doesn't make any sense. It's a bad bet versus the 50-1 bet, which has a better percentage chance of winning versus the number than the 30-1 does.
I mean, it's tough to argue with logic.
Well, it's tough to argue with math is the hard part about it. But let me throw this to you as a former player, and Brooks in particular, because I did this with Blickel, because Blickel's played on KFT. He still qualifies for the U.S. Open, so I want to get in his mentality, and I think you're the perfect person to ask about this as well, because you have that mentality, and you speak to these guys. When you play the non-Scottie market, you're playing for second. You know who doesn't play for second? Brooks Koepka. If he is in second place and he is down by 4 strokes with 4 holes to go, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to lay up on number 15? No. He's going to go for it, probably go in the water.
Well, no, he's not going to lay up on Thursday. That's why you're making this argument. Forget Sunday. If he's even within.
If he feels like he still has a chance to win, if there's enough holes left and he needs to go 5 under over 4 holes, he's going to try to go 5 under through 4 holes. What usually happens then? Bogeys, not coming in second. The guys like Matt McCarty is the primo coming second guy.
Yeah. I guess maybe I'm conditioned. I finished second the last 2 weeks, once behind Scottie and once behind Rose. So I feel like if I bet without Scottie market and he wins, then I'll actually win one time this week. But I mean, that's what makes, you know what? I mean, this goes back to the beginning. That's what makes Scottie in the field so much more interesting. And then you go to a venue like this, and then you start to interject some players. I mean, wait till we get till next week and we go to a signature event, and then we're just wall-to-wall guys that should all have the talent and the aggressiveness and the scoring potential to be able to beat Scottie, and you have to decide to do this or not. Yeah, I mean, Brooks is for sure a guy that is not going to hold back, and he is certainly not going to shoot for finishing second just to get signature points or Aon points or whatever other points he's going to get. You know, I mean, you're definitely not wrong there. You know, it's tough. It's tough when you start to talk about a player's mentality because you have to go on a case-by-case basis. You know, I like Mab McNeely. Is Mab McNeely going to go balls to the wall against Scottie on Sunday, or will he accept where not accept is a tough word, but will he finish where he's going to finish versus really trying to put a square peg in a round hole, which, you know, a guy like Brooks, a guy like Tiger, a guy, you know, perennial winners at the very highest level are always going to try to do that. And those are the guys that, yes, you would not take in the without Scottie market.
First round leader, Keith Mitchell, 70-1. Alex Smalley, 100-1 with 5 places. Are there any other guys that you can just think about at this course? Be like, oh, longer shots I'm looking for here, but that you can see the 1 round spike. You mentioned Wyndham Clark. Is Wyndham Clark someone that you would want to go to this week in the first round leader mark?
I mean, Wyndham Clark would be a guy. Johnny Kiefer would be a guy that we know can score, and then they're going to get in their element, which is going to be like dome golf, pound the driver, get the putter going on easy greens. Those would be the type of guys I'd go featuring this week.
Kiefer's interesting because Kiefer can't chip to save his life, which means he's not going to win. But if he continues to drive and hit his irons as well as he has been doing, maybe he just hits 16 greens in regulation on Thursday and we're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I could even see somebody like the way that he's been playing, the guy I was talking about earlier, Mab McNeely or Pearson Coody being a guy to do it. Because the way Coody drives it and the way he putts it, it's the same sort of, I get the approach play needs to be better, but if he gets hot with his 7 and 8 iron just on Thursday, there you go. I mean, that's the remedy for it. I mean, we're talking about Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark is not a good iron player compared to the rest of these guys. He's a great iron player. I get it. He's on the PGA Tour, won the U.S. Open. Fantastic, right? But overall, against the field, he is not a great iron player. And, you know, he's been a first-round leader there. It's Nick Taylor is another one. You know,
Nick Taylor's 55. You know what? Nick Taylor, I don't have any Taylor exposure this week outside of just on DraftKings. And I do like him a lot. I just don't love his outright number. Like if he was 80, maybe I can find it. If I can find an 80 on Nick Taylor, would you bet that?
I mean, now you're catching my attention. But what's his number on Thursday?
His number for Thursday is 55-1. The best number I can find on Nick Taylor is 66-1 in the outright market. Sam Stevens is at 80-1. I don't know if I don't know if he can put it all together to win this tournament, but he is the right type of player for this place.
1,000%. But now we get into this conversation where, and don't be skewed by Thomas Dietrich. Like, the guys that win here are guys that win big events. It's tough place to break through. Dietrich did it, but he did it by boat racing the field. It was obviously a magical week for him. Nick Taylor had played here good year after year after year, and then he broke through and he went absolutely nuclear with the putter that day. I remember watching that playoff up on the catwalk bridge, and I'm like, these guys are going again. I'm like, don't they know the Super Bowl's going on? I'm like, somebody finish. And poor Charlie Hoffman was a stripe show, and Taylor's hitting it everywhere and just making every 20-footer he looks at, every 10-footer he looks at. It was an insane. That was such a good playoff. You start – like, I love Sam Stevens last week. I mean, he's a perfect style of player for this week. Kiefer the same way. Like, those guys, the way they drive it, the way they can score. Desert golf like this, I get it all. But, man, Scottie, Brooks.
Fitzpatrick.
Siwoo. Cam Young.
Well,
then you've got, the complete unknown in Jordan Spieth, who will probably top 5. You got really good players like Sepp Straka and Matt McNeely playing well in the field. Like, golly, Sam Stevens, like, walking through that door and, like, dodging all those bullets like Keanu. I just don't see it.
Who do you think finishes better this week? Ricky Fowler or Jordan Spieth? Because Ricky's playing okay.
Oh, Jordan Spieth.
Okay.
This is the only, and I say that because this is the only place he's played good like the last 10 years, like year after year after year. It should be Ricky, and it would be, if you ask me any other venue, I would say Ricky, but it's definitely Jordan here for whatever reason. And a lot of it is that, especially in the last like 5 years, when he had the wrist injury and everything, he just really became an elite driver of the golf ball. And that's what he does here. He's an elite driver of the golf ball, and he's a bonus putter. I mean, in his career, he's made a career off making putts of 20 feet or longer.
So Spieth over Ricky. If I throw Theegala into that mix, people love Sahith this week. I myself am very lukewarm on Sahith. I understand why his number is what it is. You could not get me to bet that number. Maybe he wins because of it now, but it should be double what it is.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't bet him to win, but in that trifecta, I would go Sahith.
So Sahith over Spieth, then over Ricky. So those would be your power rankings?
Yeah, for those three, yeah.
Sahith is going to be a very popular one and done pick, I would imagine.
I feel like power rankings is a little bit of an oxymoron there for those three, but rankings nonetheless, yes.
Hey, Spieth's got power. He just said he did. He's got the juice.
Not in a rankings sense. Come on.
It'd be good if he did, though. It'd be good for golf.
Yeah. Hey, hour mark. Don't forget, we got rapid fire.
That's right. We got. I did want to ask you though, because I think that if this was rigged, that you would have Brooks beating Scottie down the stretch with Spieth somehow sticking his neck in there. Is there anyone else in this field you would throw into that if we wanted to get maximum TV ratings?
Maximum TV ratings. Boy, that's three big ones right there. I mean, if you're going for the Asian vote, you just throw Hideki in there too. You have a nice foursome. That's for sure.
I suppose. I would, you know what? I'm going to bet Kiefer first round. I might bet Akshay first round too. Just if he gets his shit together, like, what's a better course? Hey, there's a pin. Let me fire at it.
I mean, Akshay likes to work it left to right. He's just doing it from the wrong side of the ball. But for something about, like, I feel like Kiefer's percolating. And he's been waiting for a golf course that kind of like suits his ability to just go nuclear. And this is that kind of place, a la Thomas Dietrich last year, or, Scottie in years past, or Hideki, Phil, all those guys.
The other two, I bet Dietrich and Caleb Surratt on Live, in case you're wondering. You want to get your Live bets in.
No, I'm still waiting for the LPGA event to end. You just let me know when that happens. I had 4 outrights in the top 9, and I didn't get a final round. So I'm just... Whenever I have a call into Craig Kessler's office, and I was like, hey, could you just tell me when the final round is going to be of the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions? Because I have a betting interest in that, and I'm just curious.
Rapid fire. Hit me with the questions you got this week.
One PGA Tour star to miss the cut this week.
Sahith Theegala.
Ooh, I like that. Describe your style, your personal style, in one word.
Comfortable.
Ooh, I like that. All right. If you were to write a book, what would it be about?
You stumped me on that. What would I write? A collection of short stories about my musings.
About your musings.
Mm-hmm.
One Scottie bet you would take this week, but not the outright bet.
Under 67.5 in the first round.
Do you have any hidden talents?
No.
None? Not one?
Not one. Anything that I have a talent in, I have monetized, so everyone has seen it. That's all the talent I got. You get to see. I can't do anything else in the rest of my life.
Man,
I'm awesome. You know what? I'm awesome at driving.
Oh, wow. That's interesting because I have another question coming down the road. Hideki or Brooks this week?
Brooks.
Would you rather travel to the past or into the future?
Past.
Ooh, where would you go?
Where would I go? I was going to say.
You just jumped on past.
Yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to see the future. That's not. I want to live through the future. I don't want to go to the future. Where would I go? It would be a fun time to go to. Probably not too in the too far distant past because I get like a plague or something and die, and then there's no medicine around. Probably like 50 years ago. Check out what's going on. 50
years. I would definitely want to go to a time where there was like some modern conveniences. I don't want to go back to Renaissance times or anything like that.
Renaissance Italy would be kind of awesome.
I don't know. I'm sticking to my guns. I would stay, I think, in the 19th century. I still think there'd be a lot of cool things to go see. On a scale of 1 to 10, then rate your driving.
Oh, not my driving, golf driving. Oh, 9.8 out of 10. Don't even text and drive. I'm focused out there.
Wow. Do you find that?
And every time you drive, it is a race. You see, you need to beat everyone else on the road and be first.
I was born and raised in New Jersey. I know all about. Every time I would commute to the club, it was like, can I beat the time by 30 seconds?
Exactly. Yeah.
100% with you there. All right, last one. Who's going to win the Super Bowl, Pat?
Seahawks.
The Seahawks. I'm taking the Patriots. Roll with that.
Good low. You can bet the 4.5, or you can get the big plus money at 2-1 on it if you want.
No, I don't need the points. They're going to win.
Okay, straight up. So yeah, get to. Here's how you can contextualize the Scheffler bet to win this week in Phoenix. It basically pays the same as the Patriots winning the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I would give the Patriots a better chance of beating the Seahawks and Scottie winning this week if we went through overall percentages.
There's no doubt about that. But when you word it that way, it definitely puts it into perspective.
Keith Stewart at Read the Line. If you subscribe to his free newsletter at readtheline.com, you'll get in that bonus draw I'm doing for the $250 given away on Friday. So go do that. Go support Keith because, Keith, people are loving the insight that you're bringing. I love it. I love chatting with you every week. And see you next Wednesday.
Pat, yeah, I'll be there. Where are we going next week? Oh, AT&T Pebble. Awesome. Yep. I'll be there.
And that'll do it for me. You smash like to the episode. You sub to Mayo Media Network. Rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars to the audio podcast as well. And sub to the free newsletter because that will feature all of the final bets, all of the final information. Plus, I'll have that chart that Keith and I talked about that Blickle sent me about the with Scottie and without Scottie percentages and what that translates into in real odds. Then you can make your own choices of what you want to do. But it's helpful to see what the numbers actually say in front of you before making that decision. All right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!